Now fighting on mat 3 is Zoe Sheeman and Megan Ward. On deck is Megumi Wells and Claire Oikel. Now fighting on mat 1, Miles Sangster and William Allenbach. Miles and William on mat 1.
Okay. Lakin and Rama is fighting now. Mat 2. On deck is Annabelle and Emily.
On deck, mat 1 will be Isla McDonald and Mayela O'Neill. On deck, mat 1, Isla McDonald and Mayela O'Neill.
The winner between Lakin and Rama. The winner between Lakin and Rama, report.
Now fighting on mat 1, Isla McDonald and Mayela O'Neill. Isla McDonald and Mayela O'Neill. On deck, mat 1, Inessa Malik and Andrea Ashcroft. On deck, Inessa Malik and Andrea Ashcroft.
On deck on mat number 2 is Rama and Ashlyn. Rama and Ashlyn Kendall. Rama is on deck. We will be starting U18s very shortly. U18s, you will be starting soon. On deck on mat number 2 is Rama and Ashlyn Kendall. Now fighting on mat number 2 is Rama and Ashlyn Kendall. Now fighting on mat number 2 is Rama and Ashlyn. On deck on mat number 2 is Lakin and Elizabeth.
All right, now fighting on mat 3 is Megumi Wells and Claire Oikel. On deck is Libby Burnham and Fiona Fong Lewis.
Now fighting on mat number 2 is Lakin and Elizabeth. Lakin and Elizabeth, mat number 2. On deck on mat number 2 is Emily McDonald and Isabel Cole. Now fighting is Lakin and Elizabeth. Elizabeth Barsola, you are up now.
Now fighting on mat 1, Inessa Malik and Andrea Ashcroft. On deck, mat 1, Carson and Miles. Carson and Miles on deck, mat 1. Now fighting on mat 3 is Libby Burnham and Fiona Fong Lewis. On deck is Maria McCarran and Violet Mabee. Now fighting on mat 1, Carson Dutai and Miles Sangster. Now fighting mat 1, Carson and Miles. On deck, mat 1 will be Catherine Olea and Mayela Onel. On deck, mat 1, Catherine and Mayela.
Now fighting mat 2 is Emily and Isabel.
Now fighting on mat 1, Catherine Olea and Mayela Onel. Now fighting mat 1, Catherine Olea and Mayela Onel.
U18s will be starting.
On deck for mat 3 is Beatrix Chador and Eloise Godin.
Now fighting on mat number 2 is Jacob Bogomo and Elise Elias McLean. On deck on mat number 2 is Isaac Chandler and Jackson Jefferson. Now fighting on mat number 2 is Jacob and Elias.
U18 males minus 90, you will be on mat 1. U18 males minus 66, you will be on mat 1. I'm going to start your sheet soon.
Also on mat 3 will be U18 male, minus 73.
Now fighting on mat number 2 is Jacob and Elias. On deck is Isaac Chandler and Jackson Jefferson.
Kingston Alexander and Owen Bilodeau, mat 1. Kingston Alexander and Owen Bilodeau, make your way to mat 1. On deck, mat 1 will be Catherine Olea and Isla McDonald. On deck, mat 1, Catherine Olea and Isla McDonald. Now fighting mat 1 will be Kingston Alexander and Owen Bilodeau. Mat 1, Kingston Alexander and Owen Bilodeau.
Lynn Campbell, U14s are not quite complete yet. Now fighting is Isaac Chandler and Jackson Jefferson. On deck is Makai Reddick and Yannick Sheeman.
Now fighting on mat 3 is Beatrix Chador and Eloise Godin. And also on deck for mat 3 is Thomas Campbell and Cash Perry.
U14 medals will be awarded soon. There's still some U14s fighting, but they will be awarded soon. Now fighting on mat number 2 is Makai Reddick and Yannick Sheeman. On deck on mat number 2 is Jackson Jefferson and Jed Kenoff. U18 minus 60 men, chart number 64. You will be coming up soon on mat number 2.
Winner of mat 1, please come to Giuseppe. Winner of mat 1.
Owen Bilodeau.
Winner of mat 1, please come to Giuseppe. Now fighting mat 1, Catherine Olea and Isla McDonald.
We are selling 50-50 tickets. Anybody that wants 50-50 tickets, we are selling them at the canteen.
On deck, mat 1 will be Carter Arsenault and Casey Bannerman. On deck, mat 1, Carter Arsenault and Casey Bannerman. Now fighting mat 1 is Catherine and Isla.
So it is U18 male right now on mat 3, and it's Thomas Campbell and Cash Perry. And on deck will be Sylvie Sheeman and Megan Ward.
Small change on mat 1. On deck will be Mayela Onel and Inessa Malik. On double deck will be Carter Arsenault and Casey Bannerman. On deck, Mayela and Inessa. Double deck, Carter and Casey. Sorry about that.
All right, now fighting on mat 3 is Sylvie Sheeman and Megan Ward. And on deck is Ava Wallfield and Libby Burham.
Now fighting on mat number 2 is Jackson Jefferson and Jed Kenoff. On deck on mat number 2 is Mohammed Turjev and Jacob Bogamo. Now fighting on mat number 2 is Jackson and Jed. On deck on mat number 2 is Mohammed and Jacob. fighting on mat number 2 is Mohammed Turjiv and Jacob Bogamo. On deck on mat number 2 is Bryce Chapman and Nicholas Montero.
Now fighting on mat 1, Mayela Onel and Inessa Malik. On deck, mat 1, Carter Arsenault and Casey Bannerman.
Now fighting on mat 3 is Ava Wallfield and Libby Burnham. And on deck is Fiona Fong-Lewis and Beatrix Chador.
Now fighting on mat number 2 is Bryce Chapman and Nicholas Montero. On deck on mat number 2 is Jed Kenoff and Isaac Chandler.
Could I please have the U18 female, minus 70, start warming up, please, start warming up, and we'll be fighting on mat 3.
On deck on mat number 2 is Jed Kinoff and Isaac Chandler.
Now fighting on mat 3 is Fiona Fong-Lewis and Beatrix Chador. On deck is Cash Perry and Thomas Campbell. Again, who's fighting on mat 3 is Fiona Fong-Lewis and Beatrix Chador. That's who's fighting on mat 3.
U18 females minus 57, you'll be on mat 1. Please make your way over. Now fighting on mat 1, Carter Arsenault and Casey Bannerman. Carter Arsenault and Casey Bannerman. On deck, mat 1, Rowan Oakley and Angus Richardson. Rowan and Angus on deck, mat 1.
Now fighting on mat 3 is Thomas Campbell and Cash Perry. On deck is Sylvie Sheeman and Zoe Sheeman.
Now fighting on mat number 2 is Jed and Isaac. On deck on mat number 2 is Elias McLean and Mackay Reddick.
Now fighting on mat 1, Rowan Oakley and Angus Richardson. On deck, mat 1, Catherine Brown and Momo McManus. On deck, mat 1, Catherine and Momo. U18 females minus 63, you will also be on mat 1. I'm going to start calling you in soon.
Now fighting on mat 3 is Sylvie Sheeman and Zoe Sheeman. On deck for mat 3 is Libby Burham and Eloise Godin.
On deck on mat number 2 is David Petrasa and Stephen Fredericks. David Petrasa and Stephen Fredericks on deck on mat number 2.
Now fighting on mat 3 is Libby Burham and Eloise Godin. On deck is Sid Boutelier and Ariana Godin.
Now fighting mat 1, Catherine Brown and Momo McManus. Now fighting